you can just do a greenfield install of Windows 10 too. But Windows 10 is into support next October.
Oh, okay. Well, that's what I get for not upgrading my laptop for an extended period of time. But you know what? I didn't need to, as far as I was concerned. So that is why we wound up going the direction we did. But
planned obsolescence.
Yeah, well, it's just annoying because like this thing was a top of the line, absolute top of the line machine when I bought it. It was like $3,800 or $4,800 when I bought it 5 years ago.
Yeah, and then it was
now
obsolete by the time you left the store.
I mean, pretty freaking much. It's irritating as hell, but I mean, it's got an i7 and crap in it. So like, it's hard for me to justify spending a bunch more money whenever I actually have any money, spending any more money on.
And I get that, PC. but you have to understand too that the i7 that's in it is also 5 years old. If you compare that i7 that you have to the i5 that's in the computer that I'm using, my i5 is an octal core 3.10 gigahertz processor.
Yeah, I don't know. This is the 7th gen. I haven't actually looked in ages, so I can't remember offhand what it is.
So it's probably a quad core.
I think it's an octa core, but anyway, it's got the onboard, it's got the NVIDIA, the GTX on it because it's a laptop, but nothing fancy, nothing super fancy because it's a laptop. Because I wanted to be able to like sit on my couch and PC game, and now I really wish I'd just gotten a freaking tower. And
mine's a micro. It's about that big. It's about that big, square, but it was also in a previous life, it was a diagnostic workstation used for stat CT scans for stroke patients.
Yeah, see, that's the stuff like because if I can track down one of the really potent Lenovo's after it's like just hit the end of its business life, those things are so cheap compared to what they were when they were new, and they're still really solid rigs. Yeah. So I don't know. I'll whenever I actually like am making money again, I'll look at doing it. But right now I'm able to write my book on my tablet, so I'm not like freaking out or anything. But now that we're a few minutes into it, hello, and welcome to another fantastic episode of Anarchy Among Friends Round Table Discussion. Again, before we get started, let me remind you that we are covered by the BIP Got No Government License, which allows for the use and reuse of this podcast by anyone and everyone except for the government and the bludgies thereof. You can learn more about that at bipcot.org. That's BIPCOT.org. We're also covered by Brandenburg v. Ohio, 1969, in which the Supreme Court of the United States held that inflammatory speech could not be punished unless that inflammatory speech was intended to incite imminent lawless action and was likely to incite such action. So, for the purposes of every episode, remember that this is purely for entertainment, and in no way do we recommend anything that we say be taken in any way seriously at all.
No matter what we may think, no matter how it may sound, we are not lawyers. This is not legal advice. Do not take us seriously.
Yeah. Hashtag not legal advice. This is episode 251, I believe. We are on 251,
yes, I believe we are.
Which I have titled The Post-Election Hangover, which I think describes things pretty well for everybody.
Oh, absolutely. I have had so much fun watching the meltdowns on Fascist Book on both sides.
Oh man,
there is so much TDS on both sides right now. It's fantastic.
I have a bunch of screenshots. If anybody wants them, I will be happy to send them to them from some of the worst of the TikTok videos, including that one chick like spitting as she's like freaking out in her car and screaming. I have some great screenshots, and I would really like to see them get turned into soy jacks. as it'd just be epic. But I'm not a good enough artist to do that by any stretch of the imagination, so I'm not even gonna try. But I do have the screenshots. I think both of those videos are like pretty much gone now, off of TikTok. But I have some good ones. I have some very good ones. But speaking of which, since you wanted to talk about the meltdowns, I do have a couple of articles about the meltdown specifically. Do you want to start with the opinion piece or the Newsbusters one? We can start with either or. I have two links about it. The opinion. So the Newsbusters one is specifically about the mass media's meltdowns, and the social media one is the other one. So we can go either direction. I just they're too funny not to talk about.
Right. Let's go mainstream. Let's talk about the mainstream media first, and then we'll talk about the unhinged idiots. And well, I guess they're all unhinged idiots, but we'll talk about the individual unhinged idiots after that.
Okay, so this is from Newsbusters. They said worst election media meltdowns, an American nightmare. So it's been a rough few days for the leftist media elites, and they've been in anguish ever since election day. The mix of anger and sadness poured out as they called the massive win for Donald Trump and the GOP a quote nightmare, and questioned if America had given up on democracy. Journalists like Stephanie Rule warned that the voters had just fucked around and were about to find out. MSNBC's Joy Reid lectured Latino men, quote, y'all voted with David Duke and against your own sisters, end quote. MSNBC's Claire McCaskill choked back tears as she worried that America had turned their backs on the better angels by electing Trump. And the links, of course, are in the description. And this one is a good one to go to because it actually contains the videos of all of the meltdowns. So if you really want to watch them and have a real good old time.
So hold up. Going back to that MSNBC anchor. Here's a fun little fact that was posted about 4 days ago. Comcast to sell MSNBC and Oprah's Oxygen network.
Dude, speaking of Oprah, did you see that she's like being yelled at by the state of New York right now?
Yeah.
Because she claimed on The View, to anyone who hasn't heard, and I envy you for not having been exposed to this, but see, these are the trenches that we slog through for you people. Okay. Are you not entertained? This is the work that I have to do, is I have to read this crap.
Well, I mean, it's not like you don't have time to read it right now.
Yeah, but like, I also don't know that I have the mental wherewithal to not like just want to jump off a bridge after reading half of this.
I mean, that's fair.
But so Oprah apparently on The View claimed that there was a bakery in New York City that refused to do business with her over political differences. And that particular bakery is actually closely aligned with a bunch of the Democrats in New York. And it had nothing to do with that. It was like they were overwhelmed. And so she tried to claim it was, because they're Republicans and they're pro-Trump and they don't like me, and that's why they refused my business. And now a bunch of politicians in the state of New York are demanding that she issue a public apology for straight up lying about it, to try and make it look like she's being politically persecuted. Oh, good times.
Did you also hear about her telling somebody in an interview that she did not receive any payments whatsoever from Kamala Harris for her interview that she did with her? And then somebody FOIA'd the finance records for the Harris campaign, and it shows two $500,000 payments to Oprah Winfrey on the same day.
What a shock.
No, I wasn't paid for that, but I was paid for that.
Speaking of MSNBC, so Stephanie Rule said, I'm not going to read the whole quote. If you want to see the whole quotes again, they're at the link. But she said, whether it is the economy, immigration, or for lack of a better term, wokeism, we have now let misinformation become the accepted information. It has washed over us. Elon Musk, he buys Twitter and then he uses it all exclusively to be a propaganda machine, and we've accepted it. We've accepted a narrative that despite an actually great economic recovery, the vibes don't feel good.
Pot? Kettle.
Oh.
Kettle.
Oh my God.
Jesus
It
Christ.
Is, yeah. It is. And she ends that quote with, "What will the future hold now that America has just decided we're going to F around and find out?" Oh, with as much as I don't like Trump either, just sheer troll value has been glorious.
Well, I mean, even
Washington...
that before the election, when he showed up in Green Bay in a dump truck or in a garbage truck, after Biden called him and all of his supporters garbage, like,
oh yeah,
that is expert level trolling.
Oh, it's been.
And then he did.
I mean,
and then he did the rally in the orange vest.
Yeah, in the orange. It was a glorious thing. Washington Post associate editor and PBS contributor Jonathan Capehart on PBS's live election coverage on election night said, "I was mystified by what was going on, and now I can't help but think that if this election seems to be, if it proves out that the millions of people who are watching Fox News, if that ends up being the case, then I can't help but wonder if the American people have given up on democracy."
Coming from the people who have openly tried to kill the republic nature of the Republic of the United States of America.
Well, because I mean, as I bring up all the time on this show, the United States is not a democracy and never has been. It is a representative republic.
Exactly.
And here's the funniest part is in the immediate aftermath, right? I remember that in the immediate aftermath, there was a bunch of people on Twitter, which I am now inexplicably banned from again. Fun fact. So I have been kicked off of now X because Elon Musk really supports free speech. I have been kicked off of X immediately after the election with no explanation. I appealed you violated the following rules, :blank. I appealed that. Nothing. I'm still banned on Twitter. So I guess I will never be on Twitter because I hate to break this to people who are Elon Musk apologists, but that man does not support free speech any more than Donald Trump does. He is not your savior. He is not here to make things actually better. This is all going to be performative bullshit. I'm warning you now. Like this, that he loves to lend lip service to like caring about free speech and all these other things, but he really doesn't, because as soon as somebody questions his narrative, then you get booted. I mean, and right. Keep in mind with the community notes, if you haven't noticed on X, community notes are not available on any post by Elon Musk or Donald Trump. So
I did not notice that, but then again, I only follow Musk and I only see maybe a third of the things that he posts. So
yeah, he actually has community notes turned off for his and Trump's profiles.
No, I didn't notice that. That's about to do some shady shit, dude.
Yeah. So, if you think that these guys are your saviors and are gonna, bring back freedom in America, blah blah, no, they are not. No. But speaking of other people who don't actually care about freedom in America, the CNN contributor, CNN
we're still in
contributor
mainstream.
Van Jones. Oh yeah, he went off on CNN's election night in America, the night of November 6th. There are going to be people tomorrow who are going to be handing clothes at the dryers to people who don't have papers. What does that mean?
Read that again.
Quote, there are people who are going, let me try that again. There are going to be people tomorrow who are going to be handing clothes at the dryers to people who don't have papers. Now, I'm assuming that he's showing his elitism here, and he's talking about like taking his clothes to a professional cleaners,
right,
to get them cleaned, because that's the kind of rich these people are, that they can pay someone to do all of their laundry for them. Or maybe it's his maid because he has an illegal as a maid. I don't know, but that phrase doesn't really
at that point
sense.
it might even be his gardener. You know, he just pokes his head out the window. Hey, Jesus! Laundry time, man.
There are people who are going to be cleaning your teeth tomorrow who don't have papers. I'm sorry. Do you know about it? Like, is there an epidemic of illegal immigrant dentists in the United States that I'm unaware of?
Even just hygienists?
Yeah, there are a bunch of like dental hygienists who are originally from Guatemala that like, because just about every dental hygienist I have ever seen, and admittedly, it's not like I am a regular visitor of the dentist, and boy, do my teeth show that, but it's like every dental hygienist I have ever seen or met was like a white chick, and usually a pretty hot one. So,
I mean, at least cute.
I mean, like there's like really, really hot, vaguely slutty chicks. Like there are two jobs that I seem to find them in, and it's CNAs and dental hygienists. And that's like kind of where it is, like right there. So like that's your pro tip for the evening. If you want to track one of those down, CNAs, dental hygienists. Don't get me wrong, they'll be nuts.
My wife is a CNA and has been for 19 years. Yes, I understand what you're saying, Andrew.
Don't get me wrong, they'll be nuts. But grippy socks, grippy box, right? So, you know.
That's right.
But again, so he then claims that, and they said, and they're terrified tonight. It's not the elites who are going to pay the price. It's people who woke up this morning with a dream and are going to bed with a nightmare. Those are the people who are going to pay the price for whatever Donald Trump decided to do. First of all, you people keep acting like the president is a dictator, and I'm not really sure where you got. Oh wait, I know where you got that idea. Sorry, it was Joe Biden and Barack Obama. That's where you got that idea, because that's how they acted. And then Trump in his first go round. Remember the whole reason that FPC had to enact that lawsuit and fight it all the way to the Supreme Court and everything over the bump stocks was because of an executive order, an unconstitutional executive order by Donald Take the Guns First, Due Process Second Trump. The man who said, I don't like suppressors, we're going to take a look at those. Or I don't like silencers. I don't like silencers, we're going to take a look at those. Talking about banning them. Mm-hmm. This is the guy that all of these useful idiots are going around pretending is their savior. And I have really bad news for you. He's not.
No,
he is not.
On the other side of that coin, I can't help but somewhat enjoy some of the meltdowns I keep seeing about Trump and the vapid left, who are absolutely losing their shit over abortion policy because Trump nominated the justices that overturned Roe versus Wade.
Yeah, and now what's her face is potentially about to have to retire, or possibly she'll die in office of old age. Because remember, everybody's been calling on her to retire from the Supreme Court while Biden is still in office, and she flat out refuses.
Yeah, well, I mean, they said the same thing about Darth Vader Ginsburg, too.
Ugh, that Skeletor. Okay, that was Skeletor in a robe.
Are you talking about Sotomayor or Kagan?
Yeah, no, I think it's Sotomayor is who we're talking about. That she's like getting quite old and really is going to be out relatively soon, which is going to give Trump yet another appointment to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, Sotomayor is definitely the oldest of the liberal justices. She was born 25 June 1954.
Don't make me do that kind of math, man.
Well, I mean, that would make her 70 this year.
Okay, there we go. There, 70. Okay. So
I mean,
I don't have to do math.
Kagan is 64.
Yeah, so like retirement age people here is what we're talking about. And
I mean, that's the entire Supreme Court, let's be honest.
yeah, but the
Just
thing
about.
is can you imagine a 7, it's what, 10 or 9? 9 justices, right? 9.
9.
Yeah, so imagine a 7-2 Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's one thing that could potentially happen that would be awesome. Right. That could potentially happen. We could wind up seeing a very pro-gun Supreme Court, at which point maybe we could start pressing things for like the, you know, really press for the ATF to get smack down on its abuse of Chevron, which has also largely already been kind of curtailed anyway, but on like receivers, which would render the AR-15 with no receiver whatsoever. Make them, you know, crack down on, you know, on the all of the AOW and all this other crap. Where it's a rifle, it's a pistol, it's a rifle again, it's a pistol again. Now it's an AOW. Like,
right. Well, I just I saw something. I can't find it now, but I saw something just before we got on that the Supreme or the state of, I think it was Massachusetts or Maryland. I think it was Maryland. Their assault weapons ban is because it was a merits decision that just got handed down a couple months back. Yeah. They decided to take it up, and they're going to hear it. I think it's in January.
Oh.
And the state was trying to get the Supreme Court to dismiss it out of hand because they claimed it wasn't a Second Amendment issue. My reaction the same. And then they tried to, right? And then they tried to get it delayed until the next Supreme Court session next fall because they claimed they needed more time to gather relevant history, laws of relevant history and tradition to support their claims.
Because there are none.
Because there are none. But the Supreme Court told them to get bent because they the case was held in limbo before it was heard by the Third Circuit this past summer.
Mm-hmm.
And it was held for 13 months following the Bruin decision. So they were intentionally trying to not hear the case.
Right.
And then they got told by the Supreme Court that they had to hear the case because the plaintiffs went to the Supreme Court and were like, hey, they're dragging their feet on this. So the Supreme Court told them, look, you have to do this or we're just going to take the case.
Yeah, or we're just going to skip you because they actually do have that power. Fun fact.
Yes. And then they're like, okay, well, we'll hear it. We'll make a ruling on it this year. And they came back and they upheld the assault weapons ban as it pertained to the Colby decision because the weapons are functionally similar to military firearms. Therefore, they're not protected under the Second Amendment based on the Colby decision, which I think is from like 1996 or something like that.
So Clinton court.
Yeah. And then it tried to be challenged after Heller and got shot down, and then because of the Colby standard in that circuit, and then now it's back through, and Supreme Court said, yeah, we're going to hear this case, and we're going to hear it this winter.
It, you know, I have to say though, if they had granted them more time, it would be hilarious if like they go, okay, fine, you can have until next fall and then we'll take it. And then in the intervening time period, Sotomayor dies.
And now you have a 7-2 decision.
Yeah, now you have a 7-2 pro-gun court. And now it's like, oh boy, that whole delaying thing worked out well for you, didn't it?
Right.
Because what's so significant about this, if anybody's not following, what's so significant about that particular Supreme Court case is if the Supreme Court hears it and they strike down the assault weapons ban on constitutional grounds and specifically say that banning firearms based on their similarity to military firearms is not something that you're permitted to do under the Second Amendment. If that becomes an established Supreme Court precedent, then at that point, that strikes down every single assault weapons ban across the entire country and renders the Democrats' desire to put through a national assault weapons ban again impossible.
Yep, because it's already been ruled as unconstitutional on one level, so it's gone. The option is gone.
Yeah,
of course, we saw how well that worked with Biden when the Supreme Court told him he couldn't just forgive all that student debt, and then he turned around and fucking did it anyway.
Yeah, well, they did it to a few people anyway, but well, and it's, but I mean, like, that's the thing is like we also have, don't forget that there was that judge who declared there is no Second Amendment in my courtroom. I don't want to hear anything about the Second Amendment.
Yeah. Well, and then there's also the Matthew Hoover case, the auto key card case.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Where they couldn't argue on Second Amendment grounds in that case either, because the judge said the Second Amendment isn't implicated here.
Even though it's a firearms accessory and therefore would be
part of
covered.
Yep.
And that's the thing is either, so that's where that case has gotten interesting, is like the issue is either it is a firearms accessory that only has one purpose, and that is to be a machine gun, and therefore he's guilty of violating the NFA, or it's not a firearms accessory and therefore isn't under the Second Amendment, in which case he's not guilty of the violating the NFA and you don't have a case anymore. But what's happening and what we're seeing with his case, with the auto key card case, is that the state is trying to have it both ways. It is both a firearms accessory that is itself considered a machine gun by the ATF, and therefore that would make it a Second Amendment issue. But they're saying, but it's not a Second Amendment issue, even though that's true to us. It's an entirely different issue, and therefore he doesn't get to argue Second Amendment, doesn't get to use Bruin.
Right. So yeah, with that auto key card case, let's bear in mind here, this is over a drawing of a drop-in autosphere or Swift link on a piece of metal about the size of a credit card.
Yeah, it's not even all the way through the metal.
No, and not only that, but the metal is also too thick to be. Even if you cut it out perfectly and try to drop it in, the metal itself is too thick for it to run.
Yeah, you'd have to still do a bunch of machining to bring it, not only cut it out, but you would also have to do competent machining in order to thin down the metal to proper tolerances. So no matter what, it's not actually a machine gun part. It's not a gun part. It is a drawing on a piece of metal, but I mean, it's just, it makes me laugh because that's what the courts, that's what the state's trying to do in this court here, is they're trying to both make this he unlawfully distributed illegal machine guns, and somehow, even though those are machine guns, it's also not a Second Amendment issue.
Right.
So like that's Yeah, it's freaking
Well,
ridiculous.
and the grounds, like in the actual case itself, the grounds that they used to say that the auto key card was in fact a valid machine gun or machine gun component, which would render it into a machine gun, was they had like several of them, and they tried to cut them out and use them. And by their own testimony, by the ATF agents doing the investigation, they tried 7 different cutouts, and none of them worked.
Yeah, none of them worked
until they got one. And then what they did is they had to shave it down. They had to sand it down and polish it, and shave like 6 thousandths or 12 thousandths off of it in order to get it to fit into the receiver properly. And then they got it to fire 2 rounds in succession. And that was enough for them to go, again. Machine gun.
Yeah. Even though like simply a malfunctioning trigger reset could potentially cause that.
Yes.
Accidentally.
So they had no way to prove that it was the insert that caused the problem.
Exactly.
It could have just been faulty equipment.
Well, or it could have been that because the insert was there, it was blocking something like the reset. It was binding the reset where it wasn't properly fully resetting or something. I mean, there's a bunch of things that could potentially cause that's throwing other things out of spec. And that's what's going on. But either way, like this isn't a true lightning link. Like that isn't what this thing is. So it's ridiculous. But yeah, so there's a bunch of other fear mongering. Check that one out. About the media meltdowns. There's the Better Angels one from MSNBC is definitely a great one. From Claire McCaskill on Morning Joe on NBC. The Washington Post associate editor Bob Woodward said Donald Trump's national security advisor is his own mouth. He will just say what he thinks, and the country does not deserve this. The country deserves somebody who will really care about the country, have a plan, and have a spine.
So I want to point this out for going back to the Supreme Court for just a second. So right now, the 3 most senior members of the Supreme Court are John Roberts, Clarence Thomas, and Samuel Alito. They've been on the court the longest. The youngest of the 3 of them is John Roberts. He was born in 1955.
Meaning that they're all born when you could still legally buy machine guns.
Right. Could you imagine what would happen? I'm just spitballing here. If the 3 of them decided once, like the day after Inauguration Day, or as soon as the term was over, all 3 of them decided to retire. And then you got Trump to nominate people like Benitez from Southern California. You know who that is, right?
Yeah.
So Benitez, the judge, the district court judge that gave the nationwide injunction on the pistol brace bullshit.
Yeah. Like just nothing but super pro gun judges.
Right. And throw them in there, and all of a sudden it's like, now what, bitches?
That would be hard. But again, like I point out though, like realistically, where as nice as that would be, and why that, and with as much as that kind of seems like some sort of a like maybe there's hope here thing, you also have to remember that at the same time, even after Bruen, there are lower court judges who straight up said they don't care about Bruen in their courtroom, and they're not going to respect it.
Case. Look at the assault weapons case. They said Colby is the controlling precedent in this court. So then they took that as
they literally ignored Bruen openly and said, nope, I don't care that Bruen is from a higher court. We're not going to acknowledge that. Like,
right.
But this is again where I'm like, there's some hope here, but there's not really that, nearly as much as you think there is. I do want to point out as well, Joy Reid, who said a ton of insane things after the election, on MSNBC. That woman is completely mentally unhinged. she did the whole, oh, it's an attack on bodily autonomy, which makes me laugh hysterically because I kept going, what can a president do about abortion? First of all, and second of all, Trump straight up said he would veto a national abortion ban. So like what? And you ask them, and they're like, well, yeah, he may have said that, but and I'm like, well, that's literally the only thing he's ever said about it. Is
Right.
that if it ever came across his desk, he would definitely veto it.
Because he said it's not a federal issue.
Yeah. And but like that's what's happened though. Like what we saw happen with this election is we saw all of this messaging from the DNC going out saying like it's an attack on bodily autonomy. Like they want to turn you all into the what's that friggin' TV show that I've never actually watched? Handmaid's Tale. There we go. They want to turn it all into the Handmaid's Tale. And it makes me laugh so hard because like you go, well, first of all, where are you getting, like, where can you articulate to me, like, what was the messaging here that you're basing that off of from Donald Trump? Like, what did Trump or Trump's campaign have to say about it? Like that's like that you're freaking out this badly. None of them actually have an answer. And it's because he didn't actually say anything even remotely anti-abortion his entire campaign. So I don't know where they're getting, like, this just became a thing that started getting repeated. And again, because you got to remember that a lot of people are very, 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 very low information voters. They don't pay any attention to this stuff. So they have no idea what's actually getting said. They've never watched a single campaign speech or anything.
And even if you go with, let's say Trump gets inaugurated and 6 months later, he kicks the bucket. Okay, now you have J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance, who has said on multiple different mediums that personally, from a personal perspective, he is 100% pro-life when it comes to voluntary abortion. He also reiterated that should a national abortion ban make it to his desk, he too would veto it because it's not a federal issue.
Well, have you seen the people? So have you seen all the people going like, oh, just wait until somebody that you love and care about is dying of an ectopic pregnancy and the doctors can't do anything because of Trump's abortion ban. And I'm like, but that even abortion bans that are in states that ban it right now, that wouldn't actually be a conflict and an issue. And
no,
they would treat that.
Even the Wisconsin 1849 full abortion ban that was struck down by the state Supreme Court in 2022, even that had provisions for life of the mother, incestuous pregnancy. Now, this is in 1849. Incestuous pregnancy.
1849.
And in cases of sexual assault.
Yeah, and keep in mind that in 1849, Wisconsin was less than a full year old.
Yes.
Like, so that's like one of the earliest like addresses of that in the country, and that already said like, no, there's all these exceptions where like things might need to be done, and by 1849 medical technology still didn't actually know how to deal with some of those things, but they're like, eventually we're going to figure it out, and we don't want to stand in the way of that because that could save somebody's life. Like, I just want to point out, like, this was completely a non-issue for the political right in the United States. That was completely a non-issue. That was not something anybody was talking about. That was not something anyone was pushing. Nothing. That was completely a non-issue.
On the left, and they were fear-mongering the shit out of it because they're like, oh, they're going to ban it so you end up home barefoot and pregnant. And it's like, no. And the other one that I love is that because there's that, was it Heritage Foundation put out their Project 2025?
Yeah, which is just basically QAnon for communists, but yeah.
Right. And one of the things that they talked about in there was putting a federal ban on gay marriage. And it's like Trump was the first president to be on the day he was first inaugurated. to be pro-gay marriage.
Yeah, I
Obama
think
wasn't.
yeah.
Obama wasn't pro-gay marriage when in 2008. Biden came after that. And I'd be willing to bet that behind closed doors, Biden doesn't approve of gay marriage either, because we've all seen how he likes minorities.
I don't think that Biden would know enough of what was going on in the world around him to even have an opinion, to be perfectly honest with you. But
He's got a point. I don't disagree with that.
oh man, by the way, if you haven't seen that Papa Pelli, the Modest Pelican video where he does the modded Hitman, where it's a Hitman mission for the video game Hitman, and it's a mod where it's all three. It's Biden, Harris, and Trump who are the targets. His commentary in every video is hysterical anyway, but this one is extra funny. Extra funny. Keep in mind he's Australian, so it's not like he gives a fuck.
Well, I mean, there's that too.
So like he just, I mean, is brutal, and it is funny as shit. Anyway, speaking of people losing their minds,
I might need you to send me a link to that so I can watch it later.
I posted in the chat right after I posted the link to the stream.
Oh, perfect. I know where to find it then.
Yeah, it's right there. It is funny, absolutely hilarious. But yeah, so like going through some of the social media stuff. I mean, we talked about how like there was the freakouts on all over social media. There was teachers lashing out in Connecticut and Pennsylvania and California, saying that like in Connecticut in Connecticut there's that gym teacher who posted about her sure, let's pretend we're living in a world that still values these traits that I'm supposed to instill in my students, with a photo of like the words tolerance and integrity on it.
So tired of this shit.
Yeah, he also added "fuck this stupid country" #no allegiance. A 17-year-old was removed from school after posting a list on a school bulletin board of 8 names, some of whom were students. The teen marked the list as Trump supporters, asking people to kill them, according to NorthCentralPA.com. The message said, quote, "A list of Nazi meeting grounds and conspirators in the Montoursville community that wish death to America and suffering to its peoples, destroy the buildings and kill the threat at all costs."
That sounds mighty tolerant.
Yeah, it's, and what's funny is, if you can imagine back to, say, George W. Bush's second win for the presidency. Okay. Can you imagine what how the left would have reacted if the Republicans at the time had said that kind of stuff about Muslims?
Oh God, yeah.
I mean, even in the wake of 9/11, if they had said that stuff, the left would have gone ballistic and been like, arrest them all and like, hang them from trees, whatever else. And instead, because of this, the Montoursville superintendent, Daniel Taramina, initially seemed to downplay the incident. It was really a non-event. It wasted so much time. Voters in Pennsylvania's Lycoming County, where the Montoursville School District is located, might think it was so funny. The county had above 80% turnout in the presidential contest, more than 70% of the votes going to Trump. He then later told the publication The Lion he regretted his response and explained the incident was indeed serious. Although I own the words, they're out of context and do not represent the seriousness with which this is being addressed. Lies. The safety of our students and staff, and in this case residents, is extremely important. I regret those words as they do not reflect what our response was. It is a terroristic threat that is being treated as such. And it's funny because, again, there
have been so many terroristic threats made by lefties, now, and least of all the adults, because the adults, I mean, if an adult lefty came up to me and threatened me and accused me of being a Trump supporter, I guarantee you the first thing that would happen is they'd have to pick themselves up off the fucking ground. But
yeah,
when you talk about the kids, when you talk about what happens in schools, kids being bullied and attacked and actively threatened by lefties, I mean, you could honestly see a massive amount of school shootings go down over the course of the next couple of months to a year because of all of the Trump derangement syndrome that parents have poisoned their kids' minds with.
Oh yeah, there's Lori Lombard, who is a teacher at Century High School in Idaho, said, "quote I hope your mistress or daughter have an unwanted pregnancy. Wait, I looked at your picture. You don't have a mistress, and probably never got anyone to have a daughter by you unless it was by force." This is a teacher at this high school to a parent within the district on Facebook. She then said, seriously, cover your profile picture. You are pathetic looking and are opening yourself to ridicule. Everyone will know you can't get a woman and don't have children.
And wait, this is a parent, like a student's parent. She's saying you don't have children.
Yeah, she potentially doesn't know that that this person has a kid in the district or whatever, I would assume. But yeah, this is one of them. Another one in California, a teacher was recorded ranting against Trump in class, saying that voters for Trump were fake Christians, claiming Trump would molest the teacher's daughter and his nieces.
You mean like Biden taking a shower with his daughter?
Yeah. The even Biden, who, and you gotta love Biden's troll, man. Like, he seems like he has no idea what's going on. He's like imminently going to have some sort of like a heart attack or something. Like, he has no clue what's happening. He looks miserable and everything else. And then as soon as Harris is then the nominee because of that, and then gets her ass handed to her in the election, you notice
he
that
meets
suddenly
Trump in the
he's
Oval Office, and he's smiling, and they're laughing. And, good to see you, Don. And
he's like walking around hysterical, completely fine, and he's and this is less than 2 weeks after he bit a baby at a Halloween event for no apparent reason. Like, he went from that to seeming to be completely normal the moment that Harris got fucking dog walked.
Well, you can't tell me that he's not pissed at Harris and Pelosi and all of them for cooing his ass.
Oh yeah, and it's, oh my God. Well, and speaking of Harris, this is another fun one that I want to bring up, because would you open the damn link? Kamala Harris raised $1 billion plus in her defeat, and she's still sending persistent appeals to donors.
That's because she's $20 million in debt still. She spent she raised $1.1 billion in the short amount of time that she was a candidate, their candidate for president. $1.1 billion. And she currently is in debt by $20 million. That means she overspent by $20 million on her campaign. Got her ass handed to her by a guy who spent $350 million on his campaign.
Yep. First of all, that was because that was just the script, and I think no one told her that was the script.
Well, that may be the case, but you can look back to Brandon Herrera's primary challenge to Tony Gonzalez. Dude spent like $100,000. Tony Gonzalez spent like a 1 point some odd million. So he got outspent by a factor of 10 to 1. And he lost by like 300 votes tops.
Yeah, just the narrowest of margins. Yeah, according to the AP, Kamala Harris and the Democratic Party's prodigious fundraising operation raised more than $1 billion in her loss to Donald Trump, but the vice president is still pushing donors for more money after the election. Democrats are sending persistent appeals to Harris supporters without expressly asking them to cover any potential debts. enticing would-be donors instead with other matters. The Republican president-elect's picks for his upcoming administration, and I have an article on that if we get to it, and a handful of pending congressional contests where ballots are still being tallied. The Harris campaign certainly spent more than they raised and is now busy trying to fundraise, said Adrian Hammond, a Democratic strategist from Michigan. He said he has been asked by the campaign after its loss to Trump to help with fundraising. The party is flooding Harris' lucrative email donor list with near daily appeals aimed at small dollar donors, those who contribute, whose contributions are measured in the hundreds of dollars or less. But Hammond said that the post-election effort also includes individual calls to larger donors. The scramble now underscores the expense involved in a losing effort and the immediate challenges facing Democrats as they try to maintain a baseline political operation to counter the Trump administration and prepare for the 2026 midterm elections. It also calls into question how Democrats use their resources, including hosting events with musicians and lots of celebrities, as well as running ads in a variety of non-traditional spaces, such as Las Vegas Domed Sphere. Yeah, which is hilarious because remember that like throughout the entire election cycle, what you were seeing was Harris just going on and on and on about, oh, look, we have this celebrity endorsement, this celebrity. And you remember how many TikTok stars came out straight up saying, hey, the Harris administration offered me like 20 grand to endorse her and talk about how great she was. And I'm not doing that. My political affiliation is not for sale. Like, and they showed the emails, like they came with receipts like for this crap. And like, and you had all these celebrities, and remember they threw all of these massive parties, including that one really weird one that French guy went to. I don't remember if you saw that video or not, but if you didn't see it,
No.
This French dude went to a Kamala Harris campaign event, and he was like, this is insane what is going on. Like they had like pro-abortion cakes and like these just insane games and it was just this massive, lavish, like almost rave event.
It was wokey lunacy essentially across the board.
Yeah, and when somebody from France is like, you people are nuts.
Maybe you people are nuts.
You people are definitely nuts. Like,
so talking quickly about the election results so far, because you mentioned the House. So right now, the balance of the House is 218 to 212 to the Republicans. So 218 is a majority by one vote.
Yeah, it's a simple majority.
Yeah, and there are currently four races, maybe five, that have not been called yet. California District 13 is currently led by the incumbent John Duarte. By 56 or 50.6 to 49.4 with 86% tallied. What's that?
I said, Duarte. That is a name that people who watch our show will know because we have talked about him multiple times.
Then there's California District 45, which is wild. Democrat challenger Derek Tran is currently leading Michelle Steele, but they both have 50.0% because the incumbent Steele has 152,945 to Tran's 152,981.
Holy cow, talk about a slim margin.
And that's with 94% tallied.
I'm sure that won't get recounted.
Right. Then in Iowa, you have Marionette Miller Meeks, Republican, over Christina Bonahan or Bonanan. I don't know. Bohannon. Yeah. 40, whose lead is 50.1 to 49.9, a margin of about 800 votes. And then the last one is in Ohio, which I think this one's going to go to a runoff. Because you have Marcy Kaptur, Democrat incumbent, with 48.1. Derek Marin, Republican, with 47.8. And Tom Pruce, Libertarian, with 4%. So because nobody got a majority, They're gonna have to go to a runoff in District 9 in Ohio.
Can we just that does remind, can we just again just make a point about the dumpster fire that is the Libertarian Party, and the fact that the guy that they chose, right, that they chose Chance, and the fact
Chase.
that or Chase, and the fact that he got less votes than either Who is Aleppo or RFK Jr., who told people not to vote for him and endorsed Trump.
Yeah, I saw that. That was fucking hilarious.
Jill Stein got more votes than that man. Okay, the Green Party. People forget they exist.
I think some people just selected the Green Party on their ballot just because they were there and they weren't Trump or Harris.
It's just the most insane. Good Lord. But like, if that doesn't tell you the absolute disaster and hopeless dumpster fire that is the Libertarian Party, I don't know what does. Like that right there. You could have run Dave Smith and you would have gotten 4 times the votes that you did. Guaranteed.
So they would have gotten 4 instead of 1?
Yeah. But if they had hit 5.
I mean, sure.
If they had hit 5, they get on the national stage. So they only need to hit 5%, and it's because right, the Libertarians are a joke. The majority of the Libertarian Party at this point is just Democrats who don't like the direction that the Democrat Party has gone. They're not truly libertarian. They're just people who are looking for a new home and forgot that the Green Party existed. Let's be honest. That is the majority of people who are in the Libertarian Party. There is a very small minority who might be true libertarians, and then there's an even smaller minority who are actually anarchists who still, for some bizarre reason, believe that you can vote out of self-defense and don't seem to understand that that still doesn't work. But you still have that. But that's pretty much the Libertarian Party.
I'll go on record here. All right. I showed up at the polls on election day. I did not vote for any particular candidate for any race. The only thing I voted on was the local referenda and the state constitutional amendment that they had on the ballot for only citizens can vote.
You know what you should have done is you should have written yourself in for everything. Just literally everything. Because you can do that. There's nothing that says you can't.
You can't. No. I would love it if everybody who went to the polls just wrote themselves in, sent the whole system into disarray.
No, thank you. I don't need anyone to run my life. I choose me for everything.
Yep. And
that's really, I mean, if you're going to be an anarchist and you're going to vote, I mean, I think that makes the most sense in my personal opinion. But hey, that's just me. There are plenty of people who will argue with me. There are very intelligent people who will argue with me about this. But personally, there's a reason I'm wearing the t-shirt that I'm wearing. If you're listening to an audio only version, you don't get to find out what this is because I'm not going to read it on the air.
Yeah, the only clean shirt. Today was laundry day. I have my IV 8888 Meltdown shirt on. In honor of hopefully the man who will be President Trump's ATF director nominee.
Brandon Herrera. That would be hilarious. The fact that we'll get into that a little bit later, but Trump's, if we get time for it, but Trump's nominee for head of the DOJ already is sending the DOJ into a tizzy, and it's hilarious.
Matt Gaetz?
Yeah. That's already causing the DOJ to be like, well, I'm gonna quit. And he's like, well, bye. So
I mean okay. There's the door.
And Herrera has said publicly that his ideal for the ATF is to have like 4 people, and that's it. And they're all desk only workers. That just eliminate field agents entirely and everything and make it desk only workers who even if they wanted to do anything, they can't because they're not allowed to go out into the field.
Yep. Well, I mean,
you combine that,
he said is that The other thing he said is that because of the way the NFA is currently structured, he would completely automate the NFA and NICS system that goes along with it. So
well, I don't know.
here's my paperwork.
Yeah, it's okay. You're approved. Like, just nah, I don't care. Don't care. Don't care.
Yep.
Don't care. Also combine that with the fact that Gates is in charge, would be in charge of the DOJ, and the DOJ ultimately oversees the ATF. You could realistically actually strip it all the way down to 4 people, and it would be hilarious because once that's all done, the amount of work it would take to grow it back to the behemoth that it is would be years and years in the making if it happened at all. So it's a beautiful thing. But anyway, since we were talking about elections, I want to bring up feel good story of the episode here. One of them, Shelley Luther, former Dallas Salon owner, jailed during COVID-19, wins in Texas House District 62.
Yes.
So we covered her story back when it was going on. She was a salon owner. She reopened her salon during the COVID-19 lockdown in Texas. Again, this is one of these things where I bring up constantly, if you think Florida is your savior, you're wrong. If you think Texas is your savior and is a bastion of freedom, you're wrong. No, they're not. All they ever do is performative bullshit and lend lip service to freedom and to anybody being free. Don't forget that open carry is illegal in Texas.
What district in Texas?
62, Texas House District 62.
Texas doesn't have a House 62.
That it definitely does, because she just won that state house race against
Texas
Tiffany
only
Drake.
has 38.
In the House or in the Senate?
In the House. The Senate only has 2 seats.
This is
unless it's a
Texas.
state. This must be the state representative.
Yeah, this is the state. Yeah,
state.
This isn't.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay. I was looking at the federal. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, she ran against Tiffany Drake, who was a Democrat. She got 77.7% of the vote in that particular district, District 62, which is like northeast Texas. So she made national headlines when she reopened her far north Dallas salon in defiance of countywide restrictions. She was jailed for 7 days in 2020 after a Dallas County judge found her guilty of civil and criminal contempt of court. She was fined $1,000 for each day her Salon a la mode was open after court ordered it closed. She unsuccessfully ran for state senate in 2020, losing in a runoff to Drew Springer in District 30. She lost to then incumbent Rengie Smith in 2022 for 62, and then defeated Smith in the March 5th primary to move on to the 2024 general election. I am very, very happy. It covers, so House District 62 covers Grayson, Franklin, Fannin, and Delta counties in Texas.
It's just literally the outer edges of what would be considered the suburbs of Dallas-Fort Worth.
Yeah. So it is like, that is awesome. So she went from being jailed for standing up for what she believed in to actually being in the state government, which is pretty epic. I'm a big fan of that. But that was the feel good story. Do you want my hidden article? Do you want to talk about my hidden article?
Let's do that, and then we'll go over the nominees.
Yeah, I love this, and I just want to, this whole episode was always going to kind of be about the election. Like, that's kind of what I planned on, but this is great. I really want to talk about this because it makes me giggle in multiple ways. And it's a story of how you're not nearly as free as you really think. So, diesel tuners indicted for smuggling $33 million in emissions defeat devices into the U.S. Naming your company DPF Delete Shop Incorporated and emailing about the EPA is probably one way to get caught by the feds.
If you're going to do the criming, maybe don't make it so obvious.
So again, I just want to cover the name of the company was DPF Delete Shop Incorporated, and they sent out regular emails to customers about the EPA. Okay. Another day, another headline about the EPA nailing a diesel truck tuner over emissions defeat devices. In this case, it was actually a group of 4 business owners who were investigated by the EPA, FBI, and IRS for smuggling tens of millions of dollars worth of illegal tuning equipment into the United States. It's a messy story that involves accusations of conspiring, money laundering, and a shell corporation based in the Cayman Islands, which is pretty epic. I'm going to be honest with you.
You know what? Respect.
Yeah, like it came out. Okay. One of the defendants even said over email in 2020 that they were on, quote, borrowed time, end quote, with the federal government, though they continued selling illegal parts for 3 more years. Oh, yeah, these dudes knew what they were doing.
Oh, absolutely. They were well aware of what was going on.
John and Joshua Owens of Mapleton, Utah are the subjects of the indictment alongside Kevin Paul Dodd and Philip John Sweeney of British Columbia, Canada. It's even an international conspiracy to import these things. Each played a role in getting thousands of illegal defeat devices across Canada's southern border into Washington state. A press release from the U.S. Attorney's Office, Eastern District of Washington, says they conspired to violate the Clean Air Act by smuggling the contraband and distributing it all across the country. As a quick primer, these defeat devices are anything that restricts or prevents a vehicle's emissions reduction systems from operating as intended. That means both hardware and software are lumped into that category, with some modifications requiring physical alteration to a truck's exhaust system, while others are flashed onto their engine control units, the ECUs. This often includes removing a truck's diesel particulate filter, the DPF, and exhaust gas recirculation system, the EGR, in addition to tweaking engine tuning files so the vehicle will run without its originally equipped components. Okay, so like exhaust fluid is now a thing because of the DPF, right? That's what it is, right? The DPF. So, what these pieces of equipment did was mean that you didn't need all that extra garbage for your truck anymore.
Yeah,
that your truck would run.
It was power increase.
Yeah, power increase, efficiency increase. You'd get even more torque out of it. You get more top end out of it. It's less wear and tear on components.
Yep. Side note and fun fact: if you were to say remove the catalytic converters from your vehicle and straight pipe them, as long as your engine doesn't require the back pressure, you'll get better gas mileage and more power.
Yeah, because it restricts it. Now, if you were to do that and you're, say, driving a car like mine, you will have nothing but error codes and the car will run like garbage. So that's not really an option for me. But and
Jalopies for the win, brother.
I have 4 cats on my vehicle.
I hope they never get clogged.
Yeah. But I do. The Giorgio platform is a giant pain in the ass with stuff like that. But anyway, the indictment says between December of 2015 and November of 2023, the father and son combo of John and Joshua Owens purchased $33 million in emissions defeat devices from Dodd and Sweeney's respective companies, Evolution Auto Performance and Evo Tunes Incorporated, belonging to the former, and KX Wheels, the latter. Owens and Sweeney allegedly conspired to disguise the shipment of parts, with Sweeney saying over email in 2022, quote, "John, we have lots of ways that we can get stuff across the border. I will give you a call later. I just need you to be complacent and about how we do it. And I don't want to do it over email." Dude, you already admitted. Oh.
Now, there's no victim here, so there's no actual crime.
No, they didn't.
But they knew exactly what they were fucking doing.
Oh yeah, as far as I'm concerned, these motherfuckers knew exactly what they were doing, and this actually is reinforced by the following. Subtlety wasn't always a top priority for the Owens family, though, as Joshua told Dodd in May of 2022, "In June, I'm winding down this legal entity and starting up another one. Feels like I'm on borrowed time with the EPA." He straight up admitted that he knew, like, oh, I'm doing some illegal things, and they are going to come for me. After receiving requests for information about his business from the feds, he promptly renamed it to DPF Delete Shop Incorporated. Which is
why would you put delete in the name of your company that's doing the illegal shit?
I honestly don't know.
That's like, look at me.
But yeah, so he renamed that a red flag to federal enforcement of the Clean Air Act, if ever there was one. Owens started a new website, dpfdeleteshop.com, and listed a business address in the Cayman Islands to be able to continue selling defeat devices, quote, despite being repeated warnings that they were illegal, end quote, the U.S. Attorney's Office release reads. It was a lucrative gig, though, with John and Joshua Owens receiving more than $74 million in revenue through online sales of the defeat devices between 2017 and 2023. Keep in mind that by the end of that stint, many diesel aftermarket companies had already been dealt 6- and 7-figure fines. And when one customer threatened to turn Owens in just last year, he responded, "We have all your info. You'll be the guy we serve up on a silver platter to the EPA if it comes down to that." The EPA's
at
mission
that point,
has
I'm
been
taking my 70 some odd million and going back to the Caymans.
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, like you'd be better off just moving to the Caymans where you can't be extradited. But what's hilarious is they face right now a maximum of 5 years in federal prison on the conspiracy charges, and then smuggling and money laundering charges. They face a maximum sentence of 20 years. Over helping make diesel pickup trucks that millions of American farmers and construction workers and the people who make this country, making their vehicles run more efficiently, more reliably, being more fuel efficient. And the hilarious
increasing
thing
their
is
lifespan.
Well, yeah, and it makes them a longer term investment, which means that they're going to overall, that particular individual is going to contribute fewer carbon emissions. Also, every vehicle that has ever been driven in the history of mankind combined does not put out as much carbon emissions as a single belch from Mount Etna. So,
or the 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens.
Or any of a number of other volcanoes that have...
Let's go with more recent events. Let's go with the Hunga Tunga Hunga Ha'apai eruption that happened in 2022, I think it was. It was in January 2022.
Oh, you mean the island just kind of went delete to itself?
Yes, that one.
Yeet! And it was just gone?
Yeah. And they had sulfur emissions in the atmosphere so thick that for 18 months after the eruption, they were getting purple sunsets.
Purple and red sunsets from the sulfur and ash. And that put more sulfur and more greenhouse gases into the atmosphere in that single event than literally every car that has ever existed being driven simultaneously for as long as cars have existed.
Yes.
So, but it's totally okay to put peaceful people who are just trying to make vehicles work better despite government interference. It's totally no big deal to put those people in jail, even though they hurt no one. Absolutely no one. Utterly ridiculous, but I thought it was hilarious. $33 million.
You know, the numbers is what makes this such a wild story. They imported $33 million of illegal components and made $76 million in revenue.
And then named themselves DPF Delete Shop when they
Diesel
found out the EPA was looking at them.
DPF, Diesel Particulate Filter Delete.
That is like realizing that the bully is running at you and you just like bend over and drop your pants. Like
right? It's like they're going to get me anyway, but I'm going to make them go, huh? Along the way.
oh my god, it's funny. There's I mean, it reminds me of a few years ago. There was a big bust of a website that was being run out of the United States that was literally called fakewatchdepot.com that was buying fake watches from China and importing them into the US. And there's like this big bust of them. And I'm like, gee, I can't imagine how they figured out what you were doing. You literally called yourself Fake Watch Depot. What did you think they were going to think you did?
My favorite was, and I know this happens every day in New York City, but 17-year-old me with my friends on a high school trip to New York City. We went down, or we were walking through in a Central Park, and there's a guy in March walking through March or April walking through Central Park with this gigantic trench coat on, and he goes, "Hey kids, you want to buy a Rolex?" It's like, Rolex only has one L in it, buddy.
Rolex.
It's like, he goes, "Nah, these are genuine."
Or it's
$60.
Spelled like REAULLX or something. Rolex. And
my favorite one is he had one. I remember it clearly. It was on the left-hand side, and it was ROLLEXX.
Relax.
I mean, you're only like 1X away from a red light district club in Amsterdam at that point.
Yeah, that's I mean, well, see, and I've seen a lot of fake Rolexes out there, and so I had a real one for years. I had a Submariner SS. I loved that watch. But the till it got stolen by my ex-girlfriend. But anyway, it's a story for a different time. But the point is, I loved my Submariner. My Submariner was absolutely awesome. Cost me about 10 grand on the used market. It was worth every penny. Because it was an SS, right? It was stainless steel. So it wasn't like super fancy. It was literally a dive watch, and it was a really high quality dive watch. But I have seen so many fake Rolexes where like the faces are plastic.
Mm-hmm.
Or their battery. They're like, oh, real Rolex just needs its battery replaced. I've seen a few of those. So if anyone doesn't know, Rolexes have never used fake faces, no matter how much they go, no, it's a rare one. It was experiment. No, Rolexes have never used anything but a sapphire face. They do not ever use batteries. They have never used batteries. No Rolex has ever used a battery. Ever. 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 Ever.
And if somebody's trying to sell you a Rolex on the street, make sure you have your Geiger counter handy, because I guarantee you that thing's going to light up like a Christmas tree.
You're still using radium for the yeah. Actually, real Rolex use radium too. But the other big thing is if you look at the face, so there's the sapphire face of a Rolex. If you look at that, any Rolex made in the past, I think it's like the past 40 years, should have a this engraving, like laser engraving in that face, and in the right on the 6 o'clock position, just a little bit up from it, that's going to be a crown, the Rolex crown, that's done in dots, and every dot is a different height within the sapphire, is how it's engraved. That's another dead giveaway. It should also have a holographic sticker on the back side that should have a unique serial number. That's another giveaway. Also, once you take the band off, you should see a stamp on the backside of the case that tells you what that metal is. If the stamp on that case does not match the metal that the watch is made out of, it's still a fake. Now, I've seen some really good Chinese fakes. Really good, like I would buy. Like, honestly, because like I don't need a multiple $1,000 watch. Like my watch, I think my really nice gold one, rose gold one, was $300, and that was kind of expensive. But like for about $200-$250, you can get a Chinese watch that is going to be nearly identical to a Rolex, including an actual lab created sapphire face with the crown in it. They're getting real good.
And see, I haven't worn a watch in probably 10 years. No, it's longer than that, because I stopped wearing a watch when I was working in the tire industry because, fun fact, calcium chloride that they use for tire ballast and watches doesn't get along.
No, they do not. However,
And
I always advocate everybody should have a dive watch. Everybody should in their kit, because when you go to bug out, that's going to become a really useful thing.
yes, and what I really want to get is I want to get a Citizen Echo Drive.
And those are okay. Also, fun fact, don't buy a smartwatch.
No.
If you have not seen what a smartwatch looks like through both thermal and IR, you might as well be holding a strobe.
Yeah.
That's how bad it is. Do not buy a smartwatch for like bug out kit, ignoring the fact that they're going to be too delicate anyway. Even the really nice, like the Garmin one and the really nice Extreme Samsung Galaxy Expedition or whatever. Smartwatches, no, bad. Buy a regular watch. Make sure it is a very high quality dive watch that does not need a battery. A self winder like a Rolex is what you want, because then as you go like this with your wrist, that little weight's spinning in there and winding it. And it doesn't matter what direction it spins, it's going to wind it.
Yep.
And that way, it will never die on you. This is what you want. And you want a dive watch so that you have that little nice little dive timer ring, because trust me, there are going to be times when shit hits fan that you're going to want to be able to go, I need to make sure that I am aware when 15 minutes has passed. Or when 10 minutes has passed. You're going to want that. I'm telling you now. There's a reason I had a Submariner SS. Highly recommend them. If you can get your hands on one for a good price, there is no better Rolex, in my opinion, than a Submariner SS. I also don't think that I would bother with the date model. I would skip the date model and just a standard Submariner SS personally, but that's me. I don't know. But that's my watch recommendation. If you want a watch recommendation from me, and you probably don't, but if you do, Rolex Submariner SS, real good. Breitling makes some pretty good ones. On the cheaper end of things, Invicta, that's I think Florida based. They have some okay ones, but most Invictas need batteries unless you get really, really expensive. So at that point, for the same price point, you can go with like a Tag Heuer.
And that's why I kind of like the Echo Drive, is because those ones, the watch face itself is a solar panel, so it's collecting the sunlight while you're outside and gathering the energy that way. So I kind of like that idea. Otherwise, if you're on a tight budget, don't discount a good old-fashioned self-winding pocket watch.
Dude, a pocket watch will work. I mean, it's not ideal, but it'll work. It's better than, especially as a backup, just to be sure that you have something that if you have no access to power for an extended period of time, it'll keep running, and it will. Still useful. There's a reason they use them for trains, right? That's kind of how time got standardized at all, was largely because of trains. So fun fact. But yeah, that was a thing that definitely like kind of changed the world, was pocket watches and train time. And actually, that's why Greenwich Mean Time is Greenwich Mean Time, is because England had more trains than anywhere else in the world at the time. And it was actually the English Geographic Society that made the decision, that the Royal Geographic Society that made the decision how to standardize time. And so it's based on Greenwich, which is where their headquarters is, because that's where all the trains were anyway. But that's a thing now. So next time somebody asks you, you know that now. And do I know that off the top of my head? Yes, I do.
Information with Andrew.
Yeah, I do this a lot. But
autism, days without autism, 0.
Yeah, the days without autism counter has gone back. I should have worn that patch, I guess, but instead I have my 2 Anarchy patches on.
I
But
went with drone us or fuck off tonight.
so another thing that I wanna mention, and we don't really need to talk about this one for very long, but I do want to touch on it just because it is a hilarious thing to me. The Onion bought InfoWars.
And then that was blocked.
Well, temporarily. We don't know if it actually will. But
It was
3.5
temporarily
million.
enjoined. Pardon me. Oh, sorry about that. It was temporarily enjoined because the judge is the probate judge for the silent auction is investigating whether or not there was malfeasance in the silent auction process.
Yeah, and there chances are there was from just looking at the facts of the case and things, it does appear to me as though there was probably some little hinky stuff. But what I think is funny about this, right? The thing that makes me chuckle pretty hard is that all of these the Sandy Hook people who sued him and got that idiotically gigantic settlement, more than $1 billion, which in my opinion is just truly absurd.
I would say that judgment falls under the 8th Amendment of cruel and unusual.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if somebody can get city fines of $200,000, $250,000 thrown out for unmowed lawns as cruel and unusual, this is cruel and unusual. This has to qualify for that.
Yeah, this was because, right, so what ultimately I think everybody looking at that whole Alex Jones thing was the Sandy Hook survivors and all that, we all understand, right, very obviously that was not about a civil judgment, that was because he was exercising his right to free speech. He's an idiot, but free speech. And because of that, they can't legally punish him, so they're using a civil forfeiture to act as a surrogate for a criminal prosecution the government isn't allowed to do.
Yes.
That's what this is, right? Like blatantly, and it's nothing else, and everyone knows it can be nothing else. But here's what's funny about this, okay? So, and this is why I wanted to bring this up very specifically, is what do they think they did? Like, so they got an absurd, like they basically they won $170 bajillion.
Like Russia and Google.
Yeah, like 170 bajillion, and yeah, I fine you infinity dollars, and Tommy Pickles pounds the gavel. Okay, like that's essentially what happened here. And what do you think that you did? Because here's the thing is you won that suit against him, right? So he's going to have to keep making payments and everything else. But there are court laws that say you can only make the payment so high versus his income.
Mm-hmm.
So what have you done? Okay, you forced him to sell off InfoWars. And if the sale of InfoWars is upheld to the Onion, what did the Onion achieve by dropping $3.5 million on buying it? Do you think that there is any current InfoWars subscriber who is going to tune into InfoWars being run by the Onion?
And there's so much more to that too, because not only was it the Onion, but the Onion was doing it with financial backing of the plaintiffs in the lawsuit in the first place.
Yeah, which is already a significant problem, right? This is but here's the thing though, and this is what I want everybody to think about. This is why I bring this up. What does the Onion gain here? Because the answer is absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm.
What they have done is they have spent millions of dollars, $3.5 million, right? And if and with it being mostly the plaintiff's money in the first place, the plaintiffs are paying themselves, which means Alex Jones isn't even paying them. They're paying themselves for logos and trademarks.
Mm-hmm. And social media accounts. Don't forget
and social media accounts and video production equipment and a studio. Like that's what they get out of this. Okay. That's what they get out of this. They spent $3.5 million on this stuff. That's it. $3.5 million for that. Yep. So that Alex Jones can't continue to call his company InfoWars.
Well, yeah, I saw the day that happened. He did his show that morning. I didn't watch that particular show, but he did his show that morning, and then the next day, as it was being tied up, he posted something on X. What the hell was it on the Alex Jones network or something like that? So all it's going to do, it's no different than when all of us get banned from other social media platforms. He's just going to make a sock account, go back out there and keep doing what he's doing. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's the thing, right? Here's where I'm getting at this is, Ben Collins, who's the CEO of The Onion, right, said that once their purchase is complete, they plan on creating satire about conspiracy theorists and right-wing personalities, right? That's what they're going to do, because that's so different than, say, I don't know, Stephen Colbert.
Or The Onion today.
Yeah, or The Onion, right? So here's the thing: is the Onion's viewership and website hits and everything else has been dropping like a rock the past 10 years, just like an absolute rock.
In fact, I just saw something the other day where the Onion was renewing their or restarting their physical publication.
Yeah, because they're so desperate, right? They're so desperate. Yes. So here's the thing is, like, the Onion's already crashing and burning because no one wants to hear their bullshit. Okay. Because they went from being funny to forgetting what funny was. And now it's all just, let's make fun of the right. And
all of those late night shows like Colbert and whatnot, they've gone from laughter to clapter.
Well, Colbert started out as actually a very witty satire of neocons. Right. It started being a very witty satire of neocons, and it degenerated completely into the exact same thing as Jimmy. I used to be on the Man Show, and now I'm going to blubber on television over some imagined political fear-mongering.
So hard at that.
Like,
oh my God.
I don't know who cut that man's balls off, but like, wow, did they do a number on him?
Based on the shit that he's been doing lately, I'm not convinced he didn't rubber band them off himself.
I'm pretty sure that he's like going through some sort of hormone therapy. You know what it is? He is chugging a ton of green tea and IPAs. That's probably what's going on. So like, it's
next thing you know, he's going to say he's vegan.
Yeah, it is nothing but estrogen for that man. Like, let's be honest. And there's a reason that the Man Show is gone. But anyway, so here's
because Adam Carolla stuck to his values, and Steve and Jimmy Kimmel went, no, I'm gonna sell myself down the river for a paycheck. That's why it's gone.
So here's some of the recent headlines that the Onion themselves have used to try and satire the political right. Okay, just brace yourself for these real bangers. Okay, ready? Trump boys have slap fight over who gets to run foreign policy meetings. Oklahoma law requires 10 commandments to be displayed in every womb. Man forgetting difference between meteoroid and meteorite struggles to describe what just killed his dog.
I actually kind of chuckled at that one. But it's probably the ATF, to be honest.
And that's it. But here's the thing, okay? Here's the thing is that there's a reason the Onion has been imploding. There's a reason that people have stopped listening to them. There's a reason that no one cares what they have to say unless they're already super hard left, which is actually a very small minority who wants to hear that echo chamber, right? It's the same reason that Colbert doesn't get the ratings that he used to, and has been moved from one time slot to another, and it's getting ever more remote and like getting to the point where it's like streaming only and everything else. Same with the Daily Show, where like no one cares anymore unless they're already like, oh, I'm a leftist, I want to listen to more leftist people. Oh, this humor is funny because I don't understand what humor is. Like,
and that's one thing. That's one thing the Babylon Bee got right, because the Babylon Bee picks on everybody. They do it for the lulls. They don't do it for the propaganda or anything. They do it because
Well,
it's fucking funny.
the Bee has started to lean a little hard right for my taste and started to annoy me slightly, but
They've done some of that, but there's still a lot of stuff that they put out that's still picking at both sides.
yeah, but I mean, like, either way, like, this is one of those things where, like, that's why I wanted to bring this up, is because this is one of those performative things that you need to watch for in political theater, right? Like, what is actually happening? What has happened here, even if the Onion actually buys InfoWars, is that the Onion has spent $3.5 million to continue to do the things that they were already doing anyway, and poorly and unintelligently and uncreatively. But now they can do it with the actual InfoWars logos, because that's all they really paid for, were InfoWars logos. Alex Jones is going to remain Alex Jones. He is going to just start a new company and just start making more stuff. And they can't go back, since he already declared bankruptcy and went through that whole process, which is why InfoWars got sold off. They can't come back at him and go, well, now you have to sell off this new company that you've built too. That isn't a thing that they're legally able to do. All they can do is demand some sort of scheduled settlement payments. They're going to be based on what his income is. The reality is that a lot of people on the political left are pretending that this is some sort of great victory, and they're doing it enough that people on the political right are honestly believing that this is some sort of political defeat. But the reality is, this is a meaningless performative thing that will actually have no impact at all. Nothing is going to change. The Onion will continue to spiral the toilet because they only hire people who are from hyper left, like women's studies programs, that think that like jokes, that memes that have 357 lines of text are somehow humorous, right? Like, these are the people that they hire. They have no sense of humor. They have no understanding of what real comedy is, anything else. All they understand really deep down is like, they're like bullies. Because you ever listen to bullies try to insult people and realize just how uncreative and terrible they are at it? That like they're just not very good at things, like because they don't actually understand. Like that's what these people really are. So all that's going to happen is, now the Onion's going to keep making garbage content no one wants to watch, but now it's going to be with the actual InfoWars logo behind them. And won't that be interesting? Of course, they'll get plenty of awards from other leftist media who are happy to, engage in that little circle jerk. But world at large won't.
The parents will keep chirping no matter what they do. So it doesn't really matter.
But nothing actually happened here. Like, like Alex Jones is just going to move on because they're like, oh, we took your platform. No, you didn't. Do you think Alex Jones stopped being who he is just because you took the word InfoWars away from him?
Right. Anybody who actually followed Alex Jones is just going to go, oh, he's not on InfoWars anymore. He's on the Alex Jones network. Or maybe he joins Rumble Premium.
I have never once followed Alex Jones. I think he's an absolute lunatic.
Sure.
I think he's a fucking
unfortunately, there's a jar on a lot of people's desks that says Alex Jones was fucking right.
Oh, I mean, don't get me wrong. He has been alarmingly correct about an alarming amount of things eventually. But if you throw enough darts in the direction of a dartboard,
something's going to stick.
Eventually things are going to stick. Okay. And that's Alex Jones. Okay. I just want to point that out. However,
I'm not going to lie. I'm kind of retarded.
Yeah, exactly. Which is accurate. But okay. So you took his, like, the biggest blow that Alex Jones got was you took his supplement company away from him.
Yeah.
Like, that hurts him more than InfoWars, because InfoWars is just a brand, and really InfoWars is only what it is because it's Alex Jones. So once Alex Jones moves on, InfoWars becomes meaningless and it's worth nothing, which is what's going to happen is they're going to spend $3.5 million to buy this. They're going to dump millions of additional dollars into making all these productions that all of their college professors that that they studied under in women's studies and gender studies and all this other crap
Lesbian dance
in
theory.
college. Yeah, like all of those professors are going to applaud them and going, "You're doing great." And they're going to have spent millions more dollars in these productions. No one else is going to watch them. They're not going to increase their subscriber base because no one wants to hear what they have to say anyway. And ultimately, they're going to have to close the InfoWars door entirely. And it's going to go into receivership. And what's going to happen is they're going to have to make a choice of, do we risk Alex Jones buying this back? Or do we try and keep this and we don't go into receivership and we just take the loss and we take the big L, and it probably drags the Onion down with it. Now, personally, I hope they go that option so we can finally kill the Onion once and for all and we don't have to hear from them anymore. Honestly, I had completely forgotten that the Onion existed until they announced they bought InfoWars.
Right.
Like, I had thought they'd already closed their doors. So, but I mean, I'm an elder millennial. I remember when the Onion was a thing and was vaguely humorous. And don't forget where the Onion was founded. Do you know where the Onion was founded?
I do not.
University of Wisconsin-Madison.
That doesn't surprise me.
There is a plaque on the building where it was founded. So, like if you ever go to the UW campus, there's the building where there was the it was built to have the ramp for tanks in the case of protests.
Yeah.
Okay, so straight across from there, there's that other building, right across that little plaza thing. There's another I think it's red brick building. That's where it was founded. Was in there.
Oh, okay.
That's where the Onion started. But anyway, so the Onion started just like the progressive movement, unfortunately, in Wisconsin at the University of Wisconsin. So hooray.
Well, I mean, you can also pin the Republican Party on Wisconsin too. I mean,
well, yeah, so that's one of the other funny things is everybody kind of laughs and goes, "What's in Wisconsin? What's Wisconsin have?" Basically all of modern politics in the United States began in Wisconsin.
On both sides of the
on both sides. It all started here. I don't understand why, but it did. So, fun fact.
Wisconsin's been a swing state its entire existence. All right.
You're welcome and we're sorry simultaneously.
We're going to say on this. I was just going to say that.
I don't know what else to tell you except.
When asked for comment, any Wisconsinite's going to just go, oh. Although we could ask that one polka band that was really big in Sheboygan. But
yeah, well, what else is funny is what else Wisconsin gave the world was the Braves, which are now in Atlanta, and Atlanta always forgets that originally they're from Milwaukee. That's why they're called the Braves.
Yeah. And actually, one of my coworkers, side story since you went down that road. One of my coworkers is a diehard Braves fan, and he says the reason, or if I remember correctly, the reason he's a Braves fan is because they are truly a Wisconsin team, and the Brewers are just imposters.
Yeah. Well, I mean, considering that they renamed their field like idiots.
It's it was AmFam Field now or something.
Yeah, it's like AmFam Field. Yeah, it's not Miller Park anymore, which is just ridiculous. I am deeply offended.
Well, I mean, Miller got bought out by Coors, so they became Miller Coors. So they're now based out of Colorado now.
It's actually not just Miller Coors. It is something else Miller Coors, and I can't remember what the last one is that actually owns Miller Coors.
And fun fact, they're working on shutting down the original Leinenkugels brewery.
Yes, they are.
Clare, Chippewa Falls.
Yep, they're moving it all to Milwaukee.
Yep, and they're going to. The only thing they're going to keep up there is the hospitality center.
Yeah, the lodge. Yeah, which, by the way, there is a giant picture of the lodge in the lodge, and with it covered in snow at Christmas, and it's very, very pretty. I took that photo. And I am credited on it. So if you're ever up there, that's my picture.
Speaking of breweries, I have to give a shout out quick. The JD Vance ad where he's holding the old style 6-pack in his hands, and he says, "This is a 6-pack under Kamala Harris." And then he points at the old style giant 6-pack in lacrosse and says, "This is a 6-pack under Donald Trump." That was hilarious. I laughed my ass off. I know it's obviously hyperbole, but it's fucking hilarious.
Yeah. And anyone listening, if you want to know where the world's largest 6-pack is, it is approximately 8 blocks, I think, from my house.
Is it
almost?
I thought it was 6.
It might be like 6. Yeah, it's about 6 actually. Now you mention it. Well, I don't know. I'd have to count. But in any case, it's like 6 to 8 blocks almost directly west from my house. I can basically drive down my street at the end of my block straight there.
The City Brewery in La Crosse, Wisconsin has the world's largest 6-pack. There's another company that tried to say that theirs was bigger, but their 6-pack is squares, like they're square in shape instead of cylinders. So that doesn't count. So fuck them guys.
Yeah, well, according to the Guinness Book of World Records, we still have the largest one. But
true story.
It started out being painted as old style. Then they redid it with vinyl to turn into City Brewery when Molson Coors bought them and created City. Well, it's actually City, which, fun fact, is actually like a national brand that Molson does in the US, which I didn't know. But they that was a thing that they did for a while. They basically killed off all the various City lagers. But that's why it's called City Lacrosse Lager. There was also like a City Denver lager and a City, like they did that all over the country. Apparently, I only recently found this out, but Old Style is now getting brewed back in lacrosse again, so it is an Old Style label on it. And the other thing that is getting brewed in lacrosse again is, of course, PBR. So, hooray for that!
Still can't bring myself to choke that skunk pissed out.
I love PBR. The PBR that's made in lacrosse is pretty good. The one that's made in Milwaukee, and weirdly, our regular size cans are made here in lacrosse, but our silos are actually made in Milwaukee. And if you are east of Lake Ontario, chances are that you are actually getting PBR that is brewed by somewhere. It starts with an L. I can't remember what it is, but in Pennsylvania. And if you are west of the I think west of Oklahoma, you are probably getting PBR that is brewed in California. So enjoy that. Yeah, that is the least PBR of all the PBRs. So fun. I do want to cover this last one here real quick.
Is this the cabinet one?
No, I want to talk about the Pentagon thing, because we've brought up the Pentagon failing repeatedly its audits. This should go fairly quickly, but the Pentagon failed its 7th audit in a row, but don't worry, it says that progress was made.
Oh, instead of losing $3 trillion, and it lost 2.9.
It says the Pentagon on Friday failed its 7th audit in a row, with the nation's largest government agency still unable to fully account for its more than $824 billion budget. Though officials stress they are making good progress toward a clean audit in 2028. You know, I think the last time we talked about them failing an audit, they also said they were going to do a clean audit next time. Anyway, the Department of Defense technically earned a disclaimer of opinion, meaning it failed to provide sufficient information to auditors to form an accurate opinion this time. So it's not that they gave a bunch of bad information. They just didn't give them information now. The goal is to earn an unmodified audit opinion, or a clean audit that says the financial statements are accurate. A qualified opinion says there are omissions and concerns, but the finances are generally reliable. Michael McCord, Undersecretary of Defense, Comptroller, and Chief Financial Officer, said that despite the disclaimer of opinion, which he expected, the Defense Department, quote, has turned a corner in its understanding of the depth and breadth of its challenges, end quote. Momentum is on our side, and throughout the department, there is strong commitment, belief in our ability to achieve an unmodified audit opinion, he said in a statement. The Defense Department's report card as a whole is made up of 28 entities operating under the Pentagon that conducted independent audits. Of those, 9 received an unmodified audit opinion, 1 received a qualified opinion, 15 received disclaimers, and 3 opinions remain pending. The Pentagon expects the final number of clean or qualified audits to be roughly around what it was last year. The Pentagon has never passed an audit since the agency became legally obligated to carry them out in 2018.
Wait. Did you just say they haven't passed an audit since 2018?
They have only been audited since 2018 and have never passed one.
Wait. The Pentagon.
Yes.
One of the largest chunks of the federal budget. No, Medicare and Social Security are way bigger.
It's in terms of annual budget, Department of Defense is the largest.
So they've only audited the largest piece of the annual budget, which, let's face it, we don't have a budget. We have a series of CRs.
Mm-hmm.
They have only audited it in the last 6 years.
Yes.
And in the last 6 years, never once have they passed an audit.
They've never even come close to passing an audit. This is literally the closest they've ever come to passing an audit. In 6 years, which again, I just want to reiterate, is the only amount of time that they've even been obligated to be audited.
I want to point out that I really hope Doge can fix this.
I'm telling you that it's not fixable, though. It's not.
No, it's not. It's not.
It's
I'm hoping it's fixable, but I'm not hopeful that it's fixable. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
It is ridiculous. The Pentagon has proved from less than 7% to more than 82% of its funding being free of material weaknesses since 2021. This now means that the Army, the Navy, the Marine Corps, or the Air Force have gotten their house in order on all of their funding or cash.
No, they haven't.
No, they haven't.
They would have passed the fucking audit if they'd have got their house in order.
By the way, the audit of the Department of Defense annually costs $178 million and involves more than 1,700 auditors.
Let me get this straight. We have to pay 117 people to audit the Department of Defense, which has failed to maintain its books for at least the last 6 years, but let's say forever. And it costs us over $100 million.
1,700 people. 1,700 people. $178 million.
1,700 people. $178 million.
And the best they can do is 82% at least accounted for.
So $178 million, 1,700 people. That means that each of these 1,700 people that they're using are making $104,000, or rounded off, $105,000 a year just to audit the Department of Defense.
Yes. Which is unable to pass an audit. Hey, you know what? That might sound like a lot of money, but keep in mind, in that time frame, the Pentagon has been unable to account for more than 23 trillion with a TR trillion dollars.
Your tax dollars at work, ladies and gentlemen.
Yay!
Yay!
And again, this is the Department of Defense. So that's fun. That's really fun. I wanted to mention that. I do also want to mention, if you remember, that the monkeys escaped in South Carolina, and that's kind of how 28 Days Later started and all that fun stuff. There are still 8 unaccounted for.
Oh,
Speaking
fantastic.
of things that are there are still 8 at large currently. So that's fun.
So I see we were at 154 right now. Do we want to run through the currently announced picks on the cabinet side?
We can run through them super quickly. I can't really talk about them because we don't really have enough time, but I do have a link to an article from Al Jazeera, which is really awesome, that covers all of them really well, actually. He has chosen Susie Wiles for the White House Chief of Staff. She would be the first female in that role if she's confirmed. He also chose Marco Rubio as Secretary of State. Oh joy. I'm sure everyone's very excited about that. Don't worry though, guys. He's draining the swamp.
I'm super excited about Kristi Noem as Department of Homeland Security. I'm sure that'll work out fantastically.
Tom Homan is border czar.
Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy for the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE.
Yeah, which apparently is like a really big thing. If that thing actually operates at all, I will be absolutely shocked and actually be like, holy shit, I can't believe that actually happened. But I am predicting right now it actually does exactly nothing. And yet again, your word for the evening to look up is performative.
Yes.
Anyway, Elise Stefanik, U.S. ambassador to the UN, which Trump also supports us pulling out of, and so do I. Stephen Miller, deputy chief of staff for policy. Lee Zeldin, head of the EPA.
John Ratcliffe, CIA director.
Let's see. Zeldin, by the way, as head of the EPA, has absolutely nothing to do with environmental policy. He did, however, work in the oil industry, so fingers crossed there. Mike Waltz as the national security advisor.
Doug Burgum for Interior.
Mike Huckabee is the ambassador to Israel.
What a shock. Tulsi Gabbard for Director of National Intelligence. Can she serve in that role and stay as part of the Hawaii National Guard?
I don't think so. But if she's commissioned, though, so she can just resign.
Right.
But either way, let's see. John Ratcliffe is CIA director. He was the director of national intelligence at the end of Trump's first term. So he's done this kind of thing before. He's going to be more of the same. Kristi Noem as the head of the DHS.
Yeah, I mentioned that. I don't know how I feel about that. Only because, I mean, she was the only governor that not close her state during the Summer of Love and the COVID scamdemic. But yeah. I've seen some of the things that she's done on a policy level in South Dakota, and I'm like,
I also don't like Tulsi Gabbard. I don't understand this. I mean, to a certain extent, I understand the Tulsi Gabbard obsession because, like, her yoga pants. I get it, but the reality is, like, don't forget that she was a Democrat like 10 minutes ago. So.
Well, not only that, but you also have like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. for Secretary of Health and Human Services, who he also was a Democrat not that long ago. What's that?
Yeah, I actually love that idea because even as a Democrat, he was super against a bunch of the FDA.
That's true. That's true. I don't necessarily hate the pick. It's just like, I mean, it's kind of an odd coalition. It's an odd coalition.
I'm not going to say, and I'm not going to say that Tulsi Gabbard isn't allowed and RFK Jr. and stuff aren't allowed to change their minds, right? Like, Tulsi Gabbard has definitely changed her mind about guns, like, in a really big way. She literally does two-gun now and stuff. So, like, I'm not saying that, and she's not bad at two-gun, actually, but I'm not going to say that you can't change your mind, but I am going to say that's a reason to be skeptical. Also, I want to mention Pete Hegseth is SecDef.
I saw that.
What?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Also, I see Doug Collins for Secretary of Veterans Affairs.
Yes. Yeah. And we mentioned Matt Gates or whatever again as AG.
I have actually seen, so Matt Gaetz has already resigned his post in the House. And the incoming Republican majority for the Senate have already said that they're not sold on him as AG.
Yeah, I know. He may not get confirmed, which means he's just out of a job, which would be hilarious. Doug Burgum, Secretary of the Interior. Doug Collins is Secretary of Veterans Affairs, which is actually one that is probably one that you can go. That might be a good idea. Because he's one of the ones that like full on like the South at the beginning or like during the Civil War in the Senate railed against the Trump impeachment and stuff. So he might be okay. Yeah, Caroline Leavitt is the White House press secretary. I'm looking very forward to.
Yes,
that one I'm looking massively forward to
because she was his press secretary for the campaign too, wasn't she?
Yeah, yeah, and you know what? And I will say,
absolute firebrand.
I miss Donald Rumsfeld as press secretary. I don't care what anyone has to say. Like, there's a lot of things wrong with that man. A lot of things wrong with that man.
Donald Rumsfeld was press secretary?
Or not Donald Rumsfeld. What's the name I'm looking for? George W. Bush's press secretary was not Ari Fleischer. That's not who I'm talking about. Or not press secretary. He was it was Donald Rumsfeld, but as well he was in SecDef, wasn't he? I don't remember. Anyway,
yeah, I'm pretty sure he was SecDef.
Yeah, I think he was SecDef. Anyway, when Rumsfeld was like where he'd like yell at the reporters and be like, "Didn't she just ask me that question like 3 questions?" You two compare notes.
Well,
glorious.
I loved that. I also really enjoyed Kayleigh McEnany as Trump's first press secretary. Because she'd show up with their receipts. Like, you guys have been saying this shit for months and it's patently false. Yeah, and they're like, when did we ever say that? Here's the notes.
Yeah, you seem to need the also I will say Chris Wright as Secretary of Energy is super exciting because Chris Wright right now is the CEO of Liberty Energy, which is a fracking company.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
Looking forward to that one. That one's going to be pretty exciting, but I think that's pretty much that covers everybody that we know so far. Keep in mind that the United States president actually appoints something like 111 people.
Yes,
something like that.
And those are the ones that have to be Senate confirmed. Those aren't the various other non-confirmation positions.
Yes, exactly. So we will see how this goes, but I did want to just address a few of those and go, yeah, so this should be entertaining. The memes are going to be absolute fire, and I look forward to continuing to talk to you guys every couple of weeks throughout this downfall of all human civilization. It should be fantastic.
Going back to the monkeys, he goes, I thought they were capuchins. They would be at small, not at large.
You know, which also means that if they were also psychic, they would be small, mediums at large. But
I'm done.
Anyway, on that note, check out our link tree, which will be added to the description. It's not there at the moment. It will after we finish the upload, because I always forget to add that crap in, and Jason goes in and fixes it for me. But that that will get added, all that other fun stuff, all those links, all that jazz. Check out our link tree. Be sure to check out Poppins Patches, Reaper Brand Apparel, thebeardstruggle.com,
Coffee Brand Coffee,
Lions Not Sheep, Derica's book. I'm sure
remember it's a fucking workbook.
Yeah. RK Spookware, check them out too. If anybody else wants to sponsor me, please let me know. But in any case, yeah, check out our link tree, use the codes, use the links, support the places that support us. We love them, they love us. And if you love us, you should support them too. So that would be super great. Anyway, we are basically completely out of time here and pushing our luck. So we hope that you guys don't get too much more post-election hangover and maybe get out of it alive
And
here.
just one last piece of advice, ladies and gentlemen. Don't take anything that happens over the next 3 months seriously. It's all a joke, and we're here just for the entertainment because there ain't a fuck all we can do about any of it.
Well, and I'll also remind you that, again, if you think that Donald Trump's election is somehow a victory for freedom, you might be an idiot. Here's your sign.
I will be the first one to come on the show in 4 years, and I will literally go shoot a crow and eat it live if we're wrong about that. But I'm not gonna have to do that.
Chris Eats Crow 2029 or 2028.
Yep. I will go out and shoot a crow and eat it here live on the show if I'm wrong. If we are wrong.
That would be a glorious thing. I will happily pay for the ammunition for that. But we will do hashtag Chris Eats Crow 2028, and we will put that on this video. It is now forever immortalized in the comments. So we can come back to this and we will remind you and we will hold you to that. So
that's fine. I don't miss. So
all right. Well, it's been wonderful, guys. Hopefully this was at least informative. But yeah. So keep going. Hopefully things do look up, but I'm going to remind you again that this episode brought to you by the vocabulary word performative.
Build your local groups, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. All right. We will see you in a couple of weeks, hopefully, assuming nothing crazy happens between now and then. Peace.
Peace.